In this video, we are going to discuss about the epistasis. What is epistasis? Epistasis is the phenomena in which the effect caused by the genes at one locus interferes with or hides the effect caused by another gene at another locus is known as epistasis. Or we can define epistasis is the phenomena where the effect of one gene is dependent on the presence of one or more gene. As you know that epistasis is non-allelic interaction or intergenic interaction, or we can also say that it is a exception to Mendelian inheritance or post-Mendelism. Originally, the term meant that the phenotypic effect of one gene is masked by a different gene. What is the difference between epistatic and hypostatic gene? So, epistatic gene is, we can say, is the gene which suppress or mask or hide the effect of action of a gene at another locus is known as epistatic gene. In hypostatic gene, the gene which is suppressed is known as hypostatic gene. Or we can also define epistatic gene, the allele that are interfering or masking the effect are called epistatic alleles, and the alleles whose effect is being interfered, suppressed or masked are called the hypostatic alleles. As you know that epistasis, the genes that does the masking is called epistatic gene. The gene whose effect is masked is a hypostatic gene. So, epistatic gene may be either recessive or dominant in their effect. So, difference between dominance and epistasis is we know that dominance is intra-allelic gene interaction and epistasis is inter-allelic gene interaction. And dominance can be defined one allele hide the effect of other allele at the same gene pair is known as dominant, while epistasis, one gene hides the effect of other gene at different gene loci is known as epistasis. Or we can also define dominance is the relationship between allele of the same gene occupying the same locus, but epistasis is the interaction between different genes occupying different loci. What is dominant epistasis? Dominant allele, for example, A of one gene hides or masks the effect of alleles of another gene, that is B, and express itself phenotypically. So the B allele hypostatic will be expressed only when gene locus A contain two recessive alleles. Thus the genotype double A and double B capital or AABB produce the same phenotype. Genotype is produced two additional phenotype. This type of dominant epistasis modify the classical ratio of Mendelian 9:3:3:1 into 12:3:1. As you know that epistatic allele here is when no dominant is present, so it express phenotype B. When no dominant is present, it express phenotype B in case of hypostatic allele. When epistatic allele in dominant position is present, it suppresses the effect of another dominant gene present at another locus and it expresses A. So that's why A allele is dominant over the B. It suppresses the effect of B alleles. That's why A alleles is known as epistatic alleles while B is known as hypostatic alleles. For example, studied in summer squash cooker, which is known as cucurbita pifu botanically. Common fruit color is white, yellow, and green. White is dominant over colored squash, yellow is dominant over green squash. So, pure breeding white fruit variety is crossed with the double recessive gene variety. F1 hybrids are all white. When the F1 hybrid are self white, yellow, and green fruited plants arise in ratio of 12:3:1. For example, when we cross white cucurbita pifu with green, we all produce white because of the presence of dominant gene W. So you know that when the W gene is present, its color is a white. While when W gene is present in recessive form, it produces yellow color. and when Y gene is also present, then it is produced green. So the Mendelian ratio of 9 ratio 3 ratio 3 ratio 1 is modified into 12 ratio 3 ratio 1 in case of dominant epistasis. Then what is recessive epistasis? Recessive allele, for example, small double A of one gene locus hides the effect of another gene locus at another gene locus, that is capital B or homozygous B, heterozygous B or small double B, and express itself phenotypically. The alleles of B locus express themselves only when epistatic locus has dominant allele. As we know that recessive epistasis is those epistasis which mask or hide or prevent or suppress the effect of another dominant gene present at another locus, and it also modified the Mendelian ratio of 9 ratio 3 ratio 3 ratio 1 and to 9 ratio 3 ratio 4. For example, here the epistatic allele which is present in recessive form, it suppresses the effect of another dominant gene B, and it produces the phenotypic expression of A, while when it is present in dominant position, then another dominant gene will produce their own effector. So that's why in the recessive form, the epistatic allele suppress or mask or hide the effect of another dominant gene present at other locus. It is known as recessive epistasis. And their example is brown coat color B is dominant over 10. However, how that gene is expressed and the phenotype is dependent on a second gene that control the deposition of pigment in hair. The dominant gene codes for the presence of pigment in hair, while the recessive gene does codes for the absence of pigment. For example, here when we cross, it produced 9 brown color, 3 10 color and 4 white color. So here the recessive epistasis work.